Mixer, Graham here from the recordingrevolution.com, and welcome back to the Mixing with Compression series. Hope you're having fun. This has been a real treat for me, and I'm excited about today's video because it's another practical thing for you to put in your mixing toolkit that you can use day in and day out when it helps you. And this is one of the most powerful things I can teach you when it relates to compression, and that is parallel compression. This is also called New York style compression. It's been around forever. Smart people figured this concept out. And once you see it used and you understand the concept, you'll be off to the races with a million applications for this, and you'll be able to find a million ways to use this. The idea is simple. Compressing things on the actual track is helpful. You actually put a compressor on a kick drum or a snare or a drum bus or whatever and do your work. That's helpful. But what if you could compress a copy of the track in question and do some really extreme settings? What would it sound like if you blended that extreme copy with the unaffected original? That is the concept behind parallel compression. So first, take a listen to what parallel compression can do for you on, let's say, your drums, and then I'll show you how to work it. Here are the drums as they are mixed with no parallel compression, and then I'll turn on the parallel compression. Cooler, way more punch, way more energy. You notice it especially in the mix. Let's take a listen. Turn it off to start.
I step into light, exposed as a fraud, and relinquish my right to live.
And especially when you get into a rockin' chorus here where there's a lot more going on.
Sticks and stones are tearing me in two until you start breaking me down to my bones and fill me with spirit, sword, shield, and armor.
That's where you can kind of lose the drum sometimes in a dense mix, and so parallel compression can really punch it forward. So how does this work and what's going on here? What I've got here is the drums in all these red tracks, kicks, snares, toms, this fat mic thing overhead, tambourine, all bust to this one yellow track called drums, and they each have a little bit of compression, a little bit of EQ. They're just doing their thing. We've cleaned them up. We've done a little mix. But then what I've done and what you can do is I've taken the kicks and the snares, which are all on these one tracks here, and I've bussed a copy of each kick and the snare to an available track using a send. Now, a send is just a cool thing you can do in your software where you can take a copy. So you got plugins, and I see these inserts here in Pro Tools, and then it says sends. Well, that means I can say, let's create a little fader. Drag it over here so we can see it. This is like a, before you go out of the track into your speakers, let's split this track into two and send a copy of it somewhere. That's what a send does. So what I've got is this little fader up to 0, and I check the box pre. I like pre-fader sends on this kind of thing. That means that no matter what I do to the kick drum, if I mute the kick drum, this send will not be muted. It'll still go where it needs to go, full volume. Otherwise, if it's not set to pre, it's in Pro Tools, it's defaulted as post fader. That means whatever I do to the fader down here will change the send. So if I mute the kick track, it will mute the send. And that's not really what I want to do here. I want it to be independent. So I've got this pre-fader send, which means the kick drum is going to play here and out here. But where is it going? Well, you get to tell it, okay? So when you click a send, you're going to say what bus do you want to go to. And so you can see where it is. I've set it to a specific track called P drums, okay? So you can route it to an available bus in your DAW or to a specific track, depending on how your DAW sets it up. But in this case, I created a track here. You can do a mono or a stereo track. In my case, I'm going to do a mono track because I'm only doing mono track instruments, kick and snare. I'm not keeping the stereo image of the toms. I'm not sending the overhead. So since I'm only going to send two mono up the middle things, I just chose a mono track for this P drums or parallel drums channel. So I'm sending a copy of the kick there, doing the exact same thing with the snare drum, sending a copy of the snare drum there, okay? And what this does now is I have this track that's independent. If I mute these plugins here, it should just be a copy of the kick and snare by itself. That's it, okay? Now we have a copy of the kick and the snare on an independent channel that we can mess with, and it will not mess with the actual kick and snare. See what we're doing so far? What I want to do now is really get some extreme settings. The first thing I want to notice, let me pull the volume of this up first, is I actually wanted to EQ this a little bit because it was a little round and I wanted to make it a little thinner and crisper. So what I did was grab an EQ. I know this is a compression video, but a little extra tip for you here is I did a little bit of high pass, scooped out where it's a little muddy, and then I brought a little bit more snap of the snare and the kick here. Right? I just want the smack of both kick and the snare. I don't need the weight because that's already in the real kick drum. So I kind of shaped the tone of that track a little bit first, and then we get to town with some compression. Here I have the Waves SSL Master Bus Compressor, which is the same one I used on the Mix Bus video. If you caught that on my entire mix, I actually like the sound of this on parallel drums because it's very snappy. That's just what the SSL sound is. It's very punchy, in my opinion. But any compressor will do. I've used, you just name it. I've used it on parallel drums, and I would love for you to experiment with a couple different ones and see which ones have a character that you like on the drums. The key here is to just destroy the track, okay? So you don't want to worry about maintaining and preserving transients or being gentle. All of the stuff I've taught you goes out the window in parallel compression. This is kind of fun. So I have a very, very slow attack because I don't want to just kill the transients completely. I want to pump. I like a slow attack, fast release to really create a pumping sound. But you can experiment with the opposite. You could do fast attack, slow release. But what you're going to probably notice is that you just sort of really get rid of any power. So you might still want to have a slow attack, fast release setting, but experiment. Every compressor sounds different. But what I'm doing here is a 10-to-1 ratio. Go for 8-to-1 or higher, something really, really crushing, and then dial the threshold way, way down so you're really squashing it. And take a listen to what this is doing. Really, really pumping, right? I've done a lot of makeup gain because I've turned it way down. If I set the makeup gain back to neutral, you see I'm making it quieter. If I had a fast attack, let's say, this is what it would sound like. That can still work, but I lost some of the power, so I went slower. And you just make it sound nasty. You really can't go wrong here. There's no real right or wrong setting, so just really make it pump and sound nasty and gritty. Now what we have is a pointless, nasty, gritty track, but it's how you use it in conjunction with everything else, okay? So that sound is all here on this independent channel. What I like to do is go back to the original drums, press play, and then while it's playing with the regular drums, the ones that are musical and have lots of dynamics, I like to slowly fade up the parallel channel and blend it in till it really is sounding like it's got some weight. And there you have that punch and that weight and that thump of drums all at your fingertips. And you haven't killed the dynamics of your drums because you haven't affected the drums. You're affecting a copy of the kick and the snare. You're affecting something that's not the actual thing. And that's the beauty of working in parallel. Now, some tips here is one, you can send anything you want. You can send the whole drum tracks, all the drum tracks, including overheads, to the parallel channel. I prefer to just send kick, snares, and sometimes toms and not send the overheads. The reason for this is I don't personally like the pumping and squashing sound that the compressor will do to the cymbals on drums. So I like to keep the cymbals sounding natural, so I leave them out. I just squash the crud out of the kick, snare, and maybe toms to give them punch, give them weight, and bring that in. And that'll make your drums just hit really hard. This is great for any genre, this concept. I just want you to go try it immediately after this video, and you're gonna see the weight come in. Now, you can do this in other places. You can do this on vocals. If you want a very compressed vocal sound without it sounding vocally compressed, you can do parallel compression on vocals. You can do this on your guitars. This can thicken up guitars beautifully. You can do this on bass. You can even do this on the mix bus. There's a lot of crazy examples here. I just wanted to show you drums because to me, parallel compression on drums is one of the most helpful and practical implications and implementations of this technique. And it's the way most drums that you hear have that weight and that punch that sound natural and dynamic, but at the same time, they cut through a dense mix and they hit hard. So try this on your next drum track, and I think you're really going to like it. Now, I want to help you out a little bit more. If you haven't already, grab my 7-step compression checklist. I have put together every single thing I've been teaching in this Mixing with Compression series, all the steps, all the pointers, all the settings, all the tips into one simple PDF document. It's my 7-step compression checklist, and it's my gift to you. To get it, just go to compression7.com, compression number 7.com. We'll put the link here in the video and in the description box. And just go download it on any device you like or print it up. The whole concept is to call to mind all of these tips, including today's video, the parallel compression. What were the settings? How did you bring it in? What's a send? All that kind of stuff. It's all there for you. So when you're actually in the throes of mixing, actually working on your music, you don't have to come back to YouTube or the blog to watch these videos again. You can just reference the checklist. It's your guide. It's your partner alongside all the knowledge you've been getting from this video series. So go to compression7.com right now and download it as my gift to you. And let me know if it's helpful to you. Leave me a comment in the video below. Let me know if you're using parallel compression and if you've downloaded the checklist. And if you haven't, why haven't you? Go get it. It's easy. It's free. It's right there for you. Link is in the video. If you like these videos, also subscribe to them. That way you'll know when the next one's coming out. And we have one more very important compression video for you in this Mixing with Compression series coming out. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it.